YouTube, what's cracking, man? It's your boy Berto. Hey, I'm coming at you with another vid. I didn't know if I was gonna keep posting videos, but I kind of like doing it. I posted two videos recently. I posted the Bears one. It got like almost 300 views. That was really crazy to me. And then I just posted the Knicks and Raptors trade one probably like a couple days ago, and it's up to like 100 views. Hey, I really do appreciate you guys for watching me. If you don't subscribe, if you don't like, it's cool. Just watch the video. Tell me what you guys think. Hey, I'm not the one. I'm not one of those persons to be like, subscribe, comment. Hey, if you want to do that, you can do that. Without further ado, let's get into today's topic, bro. Today's topic is about sports being rigged, sports gambling, all that good stuff. I wouldn't say here. Let me retract that. I wouldn't say sports are rigged. I would say sometimes they're kind of some teams are favored in the game than the other teams, maybe because it's a superstar, or maybe it's because it's a fan favorite team, stuff like that. If you guys watch sports, you guys know what I'm talking about. Um, but I think it's the perfect time to make this video just for the simple fact that I gamble, and a lot of people that I know gamble, and if they don't gamble yet, they're starting to get into it. And even like the younger generation, man. I'm 21, or I'm turning 21, but even like the 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, like they're starting to gamble. I'm not saying if that's good or bad, but they're starting to gamble. So I just feel like a lot of people are starting to gamble now, and I think it's the perfect time to make this video. So for those that gamble, or for those that know people that gamble and stuff like that, how many times have you thought to yourself, "Damn, man, I missed this by 1 point, one rebound, one assist." The other night I had someone for 25 and a half over, so they have to score 26 points or more to win that parlay because I had the over. But he ended up with 25. And this happens multiple times, not just to me, to people I know, to people on the internet. And yeah, you might think it's bad luck and stuff like that, but I just don't think that it's always bad luck. And here's why. There's teams that are partnered with Sportsbook. Look at the Phoenix Suns. That's one of my favorite teams, so I'm not being biased. Look at the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are paired up with FanDuel. They have a partnership with them and all that. If you look at some of the lines that they have and see after the games what they ended up with, you will start to see the painted picture on these guys know what their line is for every single rebound, point, assist, all that stuff. I'm not saying that they keep it in the back of their mind, but subconsciously they know. And you guys know, if you put something in the back of your mind and you see it over and over and over again, you don't have to remember it. It's just in the back of your mind, and it's just gonna be like a kind of, not a routine, but it's just gonna be in the back of your mind, and you don't really need to think of it really, really hard to know and to like kind of remember it. So if you guys don't know, in 2007, an NBA ref by the name of Tim Donaghy was obviously accused of cheating, and then later found out that he was actually betting on games and fixing games. This is a real thing, so if you guys aren't really aware of it and stuff like that, this is a real thing. You can go on the internet and look up Tim Donaghy, 2007. He went to jail, all that. He went for 15 months. This is a real thing. So, since we know this, let's get to the root and the beginning of it, right? There's this guy named Jimmy Batista that he went to high school with. Obviously, they didn't really know each other, but they went to high school together. Um, they went their separate ways. Tim went to go ref in the NBA and ref in college and stuff like that, and then Jimmy went to go do his own thing. So it came to be that Jimmy went and he kind of got an interest of gambling and betting and stuff like that. So he made a group. The group was called the Animals. The Animals would stay in the office all day, look at lines, look at player props, whatever it may be. They would sit in there 10 hours, 14 hours a day, and kind of just gamble all day, right? So they were kind of really, really missing the piece, right? They were missing that piece to kind of, make sure they win, just be very, very profitable. And Lord behold, Jimmy knows a guy in the NBA, an NBA ref, right? Who was later found out to be Tim Donaghy. So after they got Tim Donaghy, they kind of started um, frequently betting with each other, or not betting with each other, but getting in. in like little groups and stuff like that, and being like, "Hey, we're taking this team to win tonight, this and that." Not only was Tim a really good ref, but he was fixing games also. It's kind of mind blowing if you really think about it. There's kind of a grading scale of how NBA refs are, and Tim Donaghy was kind of the top of the top, and he was still fixing games, and people didn't know. So it was really, really crazy for a high skilled ref of his level to be gambling on games and fixing games and stuff like that. So how it went was, if Tim won, he would get $5,000 from Jimmy. And then if the bet lost, then Tim would walk away free, and they won't really have no he wouldn't really have no collateral unless he got found unless the NBA found out he was doing this and stuff like that. But the compensation was 5,000 every time a bet won for Tim. And then obviously it got deeper and deeper, and they kept going. Not only did they pay Tim $5,000 every game he fixed, but if Tim felt really good about the Lakers winning that night or the Kings winning that night, they would double, triple their bet. So if Tim were to call Jimmy and be like, "Hey, I feel really good, blah blah, this and that," they would just have a regular conversation, and then they would have a key word. The key word was schmaga. So the story goes that there was this Down syndrome kid that they grew up with that everybody loved, and so basically they would say schmaga for the bet that they loved and they really really loved. So then from betting probably like $100,000, he would bet $500,000, $1,000,000 just by the keyword schmaga. So obviously his Tim's payout of 5,000 would later turn into 10,000, 15,000. It would get bigger and bigger. Jim and Tim had a really good run for a couple seasons doing this gambling scandal and stuff like that. But we all know all good stories must come to an end. Um, they found out the FBI was investigating the mob, and for some reason, Tim's name came up. They had their phone tapped, and for some reason, Tim was in the conversation and stuff like that. So they got a lead. They followed that lead. Obviously, Tim ended up being Tim Donaghy in the NBA. And then later they found out that Tim was kind of betting with Jimmy, and then they had this whole little scandal. And then both Timmy and Jim ended up serving 15 months in jail for obviously doing the whole gambling scandal and stuff like that. And guys, this is my favorite part of the video, where we get into the examples of why I think the NBA is rigged, or why I think some teams are favored and stuff like that. So example number one, I'm not old enough to watch this, remember this. I was born in 2003, I'm sorry, and this happened in 2002. So the Lakers versus Kings. Everyone knows, if you're a basketball fan, if you have older parents or family members that are into basketball, they probably watched this game. Lakers versus Kings in 2002. It was a game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, and everyone said it was the worst officiated game in NBA history. Obviously, the Lakers were down 3-2 in that series, and the Kings needed one more game to close it out. But guess who was on that Lakers team? Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. And what did the NBA want? The NBA wanted the views. The NBA wanted Kobe and Shaq to go into the finals. They didn't want a Kings team with really nobody on it. They wanted the big names on it. We have to remember, the NBA is a business. They wanted Kobe, they wanted Shaq, they wanted the Lakers, they wanted the dynasty in the finals instead of a bogus Kings team. And that's just how it is. Like I said before, I feel like some games aren't rigged, but they're in the favor of the more popular team, the more popular players, and obviously the Lakers were the more popular team. So, I think there was 31 foul calls or 41 foul calls, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on the Kings, obviously putting the Lakers on the line, getting more points and stuff like that. And Tim Donaghy, guys, the person we were just talking about, came out and said that the NBA had a special ref to make sure game 6s went out to game 7s. His name was Dick Bavetta. Dick Bavetta. He was the guy that the NBA would call to make sure that game 6s went out to game 7. And guess who was reffing that game? Dick Bavetta was reffing that game. And now, I'm not here to say that the games are rigged. but I really, really strongly believe that games are in favor for some players, some teams, the more popular team, like I said before. And this is just one example of that. And number two, this was before my time again. This was when Allen Iverson was in the league and stuff like that. So Allen Iverson was playing a game and he threatened one of the refs that I guess he said he would kill him. I don't know what Allen Iverson was on, but I guess Allen Iverson threatened the ref to kill him. And later the NBA found out and they only fined him, right? They didn't suspend him, they didn't do anything. It was kind of like a slap in the wrist for a really big mistake that he made, was threatening someone's life. So the next game, the officiating crew came together and we're like, hey, I think it was wrong that Allen Iverson only got fined. I think we should do something about it. We think he should have got suspended, this and that. So that game, they go on and call all these carry calls like Allen Iverson. We all know, if you guys seen clips of Allen Iverson, he would palm the ball. How they say, I call it carrying, whatever you call it, carrying, palming. Basically, when you go like this with the ball, and it kind of sits on it like that. So Allen Iverson was known for this. He would basically palm the ball kind of every time he dribbles and does cool moves and stuff like that. But they wouldn't call it because it's Allen Iverson. It's for the views, right? But this day, the refs came together and were like, hey, we think this guy should have been suspended, not fined. So we're going to come together and we're all going to take turns calling a palming violation on him. And guess who was the head chief of that officiating crew? Tim Donaghy. Hey, like I said, guys, his name is on fingerprints on a lot of shit. And he's gone on many podcasts, many interviewers and stuff like that, and said this um on national television, on the internet, all this stuff. He has his fingerprints on all this stuff. So obviously, Tim Donaghy was the one officiating. So him and his crew members all one took a turn in calling a call on Allen Iverson palming the ball, and it got to the point where Allen Iverson even knew what was going on. Right. So one of his teammates got fouled, and Iverson went up to Tim and was like, "Hey Tim, how long is this gonna keep going?" And Tim's like, "What are you talking about?" And Allen Iverson's like, "I know what you're doing. Like I know." And then Tim and him just kind of smirked at each other, and they both knew what was going on, and Allen Iverson was like, "Well, I just have to deal with it. The officiating crew." And hey, that's the second example, guys. I got a couple more. And guys, you may think, well, Tim Donaghy doesn't ref no more. There's no way this is still happening, stuff like that. But I'm gonna shock you a little bit here. For the people that don't know, Scott Foster and Tim Donaghy were officiating together, and them two had 134 phone calls back to back. I think to each other, or whatever it may have been. But guess who is still in the league today, refing the NBA games? Scott Foster. Obviously they were. I don't know if they were good friends, but I know they used to talk. Obviously, 134 phone calls. They must have talked really, really well. And when you think of Scott Foster, you have to think about CP3, right? We all know their relationship. It's a bad relationship. I don't know why. I think it was because Scott Foster said something to CP3's child, something along the lines of "get out the way" or something like that, because they were in the parking garage. I don't know what it may have been, but they don't have a good relationship. They honestly really do hate each other, and everyone in the know, everyone in the NBA, everyone around the NBA fans and stuff like that, everyone knows this. If you don't know this, you're kind of living under a rock. I'll be honest, but obviously Scott Foster still officiates games. He still officiates the games that CP3's in, and this is why I think some games are favored for one team and least favorable for the others. Because say you're on CP3's team and Scott Foster's refing, you already know going into that game, damn, I might be fucked. Let's just say how it is. When your teammate has a vendetta, or when a ref has a vendetta with one of your teammates, you know that game's not gonna go good. In games that Scott Foster officiates CP3, the record is 3-17. So obviously, if that doesn't paint a picture, I don't know what will. CP3 has only won 3 games and lost 17 games when Scott Foster's officiating, which is very, very wrong of the NBA for even allowing Scott Foster to officiate games that CP3 is in, because there's obviously a personal vendetta against CP3, and it's not just throwing off CP3. It's throwing off the whole team, you know? A few years ago, it was the Bucks versus Suns in the finals. It was 2021. This was kind of COVID year and stuff like that. But the Bucks were leading the series and it went to a game 6 and the Bucks just needed to win game 6 to close it out. It was a very anticipated game because if they lost that game, I think it would have went back to Phoenix if I'm not mistaken. So obviously it was a big pivotal game, game 6. And the Bucks open up as a 1.5 point favorite. If you don't know what that means, it basically means if you bet the spread, the Bucks need to win by more than 2, right, to cover the spread, and you winning your bet. So they open up as a 1.5 point favorite, which is basically means it's a close game. It's kind of like they don't really know if the Suns are gonna come out and play, if the Bucks are gonna come out and play. So it's kind of like a 50-50 or more like a 55-45, I guess you can say. But obviously, nobody knew who the refs were yet. Whatever it may have been, right? So after the ref crew came out, the list comes out. Obviously, for every game, it comes out after they announce the game. Guess who is the head chief of that game? Scott Foster, right? Scott Foster is officiating the NBA Finals Game 6 that CP3 is playing in. Um, Obviously, everyone knows this vendetta that Scott Foster has against CP3. So the Bucks went from a 1.5 point favorite, and then they after that they opened up at a 5.5 point favorite, which means now the Bucks, the sports book thought that the Bucks were going to win by more than 2, but now they think they're going to win by more than 6. And in the sports world, 4 points is a lot of points, and especially after only the ref list came out and stuff like that. Um, Personally, I just think it's very wrong for them to even allow this, the NBA, to allow Scott Foster to keep officiating CP3's games. That's just my personal opinion. If you were in CP3 shoes, how would you feel? You know, the guy has a personal vendetta against you. He's officiating one of the most important games in your entire career. And guys, let me leave you with this last thought, right? Everyone knows, like I've said this multiple times, everyone knows that Scott Foster has a personal vendetta over CP3, which kind of throws off the game. It favors the other team that CP3 is not on. So if the NBA out of all these years came out and said, you know what, we're not going to let Scott Foster officiate CP3's games, then what would everyone think? That this personal vendetta that Scott Foster has with CP3 is actually real. And number 2, it would mean that the NBA didn't really care that much to switch the ref or to make sure that um Scott Foster didn't have CP3's games. And I just think, me personally, man, I think it's very, very messed up that the NBA is still allowing this to this day. I do think the Suns have a really good chance of beating the Bucks in Game 6 and making it to a Game 7, but um, we will never know, obviously. But I just think the NBA is so far deep into letting Scott Foster officiate CP3's games that they will never turn back because everyone would now think like, damn, all this shit about Scott Foster and CP3 was really, really true. The NBA will never, ever be able to cover that up. And now I feel like everyone in the NBA world or the fans will think that it's rigged or it was really favored for the other team that CP3 wasn't on. So I just feel like the NBA is too deep into letting Scott Foster officiate these games that it's kind of pointless to kind of change it now because it would kind of be proving the whole vendetta that we all know Scott Foster has over CP3. But guys, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think. I strongly do believe that some games are um not rigged, but they are favorable for one team than the other. Um, Let me know what you guys think about the whole thing, about the examples and stuff like that. Hopefully you guys like this video, man. I'm gonna keep pushing out this content, hopefully for you guys. I'm gonna try doing at least one video a week, maybe a week and a half. I don't know. Kind of just depends. But hopefully you guys like it. If you guys want to like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. I'm not gonna tell you guys to do that, but I do appreciate you guys. It's been Berto. Peace.